to kind of re-immerse myself in what Australia's doing in the behavioural insight space.
Basically, I want to see how, as a government department, we can better engage people online.
Well, I'm involved in the program, encouraging people to work out how people can change behaviours and how we can improve, in my case, safety and quality and health.
I've been really interested in behavioural economics for about 5 years.
Well, I'm here to talk about the Office of State Revenue's experiences with BI.
And I realise, that it's quite fascinating about how little awareness people have about what motivates them and what determines their decisions.
I'm really interested in the philosophy behind it, and I want to apply some of the theory to some of the practical work that's going on in Treasury.
I have been overseas to America, and I've learned a lot about design, human-centred design thinking, and so I'm really interested about the intersections between design thinking and BI and innovation.
I was asked to be a panellist up here, and the conference is on making use of behavioural economics, psychology and so on to make things work better.
It's just exciting. I work for a company that does behavioural energy efficiency, so using behavioural insights to motivate people to use less energy. And so it's just exciting to be around a room full of people trying to do the same sort of thing in different policy areas.
I guess one of the things I've got most out of the conference today is really the back channel discussions on Twitter. I'm a huge Twitter nerd, and so been kind of following the BX 2014 hashtag and really appreciating the conversations with other delegates here.
I think some of the key takeouts are both trying to understand when something works and when something doesn't work. And when a nudge doesn't work, I think that can be just as informative as when it does work. And I'd like to hear a little bit more, I guess, about trials that are not successful and why they weren't successful.
By far my favourite speaker today was Cass Sunstein, the nudge god, as he is.
I thought the speeches from the guys from the ATO and the Department of Human Services were both particularly interesting.
I'm really excited to actually hear what Australia's going to do with what has traditionally been a UK-based, America's been the hotbed for all of the research, the UK's done a lot of the policy application, and I think Australia's really picked itself for the next hotbed for behavioural insights.
And I think the broader thinking about how do we take it beyond the sort of transactional issues and apply it to some of the more complex social policy issues.
Things I've really got out of the conference, it's terrific to see what a groundswell there is around behavioural economics or behavioural insights now. There are some really bright people here.
One of the things I took away was just that ease of communication, making it actually friendlier.
There's always new examples. There are always things, even though we do a lot of this kind of behavioural intervention, of course, in the UK, but there are things where, maybe a given minister didn't want to do something because they were worried about it, and there's a sort of can-do attitude here in Australia.
Just that there's really an exciting sort of sense of experimentation going on. So there's a lot of random control trials out there. There's a lot of people looking at different fixes, but not with a sort of sense that they actually know the answer.
Advertising is completely creatively led. It's very unscientific. And I think what I've got out of today is the discipline required to set up testing and retesting in experimental conditions and making sure you gather evidence to see what works and what doesn't.
It's a superb program. I really appreciate the fact that the people who have done the groundwork in this area are actually here.
It really resonates to get a bit of a sense of how optimistic we can be for what we can achieve. David Laibson talked a lot about that, but Cass kind of warned us about the need to have nudges and think about what their role is and how we might need nudges for the nudges.
There's a role for mandates and incentives, but there's also a role for the nudge.
I think it's going to give us an idea of we shouldn't just take an assumed approach. We have to think of what we want to achieve, and then we have to think of a bunch of different ways that we might do it and test them.
The key thing with behavioural insights is to try and get people to understand what sort of options there are available for them. And I think one of the challenges is, yes, we can make things more simple, but there's also the role of the choice architect, if you like, in designing the environment. We've got to think carefully about the kinds of biases that the architect themselves might be susceptible to.
I've learned it works. That's the most important thing. I guess with all these sort of things, you worry whether it's a fad and whether it's a gimmick. And I probably started as an agnostic, but I can tell you that I'm a convert.
It's about what people can best draw on in terms of techniques and insights and experiences and randomised control trials if you need it. But absolutely in critical, it's about people.